fighting a war that no one's ever fought in the history of the world.
I think it's a big mistake.
It's just absurd, the lies that they tell. Occupation causes terror, then why were they massacring us in 1929 before there was even a state? It just totally opened my mind to a whole new perspective.
You've been living here for 30 years. Obviously, you know, I was born here. I'm Israeli. I lived in other countries as a child, but I lived most of my life in Israel. For you, someone which is coming from the outside, I mean, what are the main challenges here? I mean, what is there to, you know, I shared the same point of view. We have a great future. I see where the economy is heading. I see where the tech is heading. I think we are going to overtake most European countries. We already did overtake them in terms of GDP per capita. We overtook France and Italy and the UK. And I think we might overtake Germany and even the Netherlands and maybe Scandinavia within the next 10 or 20 years. I think it's going to happen. I'm not sure about the US. They're a little higher than that, but still, I mean, it's a massive achievement for a country which is only like less than 80 years old to overtake countries that have been established 500 years ago or more. So. But still, there are challenges here. I know for someone, and I know that most of the people that are going to listen to our interview are not necessarily following the Israeli local news, which I am very critical of. The mainstream media news channels here, which some of them are, I would say, unpatriotic, to say the least.
Being kind. Yeah.
To be kind. Obviously, life is not easy for everyone here. I mean, if you are in tech, if you are, you know what you're doing, yes, you can make good money here, but not everyone is in the top one.
Right.
What are the main challenges here as you see them?
So first of all, since we were talking about the Torah, I have to say something very interesting. Most people don't realize this. So, you know, obviously there's the Bible, right? The Old Testament, and then there's commentary. I'm not talking about the commentary right now. In the Bible, literally black on white, in the Bible,
yes,
it says the following words. I'll say it in Hebrew, then I'll translate into English. The more the Egyptians persecuted us, the more we multiplied, the more we flourished. That's counterintuitive. Why? If they're persecuting us, you wouldn't expect us to flourish, but that's our story. The more they terrorize us, the more we innovate. And so, you know, there are many challenges here. I'm not belittling those challenges, but at the end of the day, as a nation and as a country and as a state, we've never been stronger. And, you know, then if someone hears that might say, well, how come it's taking you 2 years to beat these, you know, Hamas punks? People don't realize this is not a war like any other war. This isn't like fighting against an army. So this is not something that we can say, oh, we'll follow that military strategy and you can't do it. So we're not losing because we're weaker. We're losing because we're fighting a war that no one's ever fought in the history of the world. Now, to answer your question, I think most challenges in Israel today stem from one fundamental, let's call it philosophy, or two different philosophies. One is, are we a Jewish democratic state, or are we democratic Jewish state, or even a democratic state without Jewish state, right? So I think, and again, I'm obviously generalizing, right? But I think many of the people here in our world have no interest in this being a Jewish state. Like, this is a democratic, okay, whatever. It's for the Jews who can come here. Maybe there's some manifestations in the law that make it easier for Jews to come. Fine. But most of them, many of them say, listen, this could have been Uganda. I mean, I'm not going to name names, but a fellow investor, good friend, who I have tremendous respect for, I had heard that he's uber left, right? I never really talked about politics with him. We went out to lunch and we're talking, and I said something like, you know, if we don't have Jewish characteristics of this country, then we might as well be in Uganda. And he looked at me and said, yeah, we should be in Uganda. I was like, what?
Are you serious?
Dead serious. Someone you know. I'm not going to name names. But the point is, many people, I would say, overlap strongly with the left politically, don't want this to be a Jewish country. They want it to be a democratic, liberal democracy like America. Then there's millions of people on the other side, stemming from someone in my world, which is like, let's call it Zionist religious, to Haredi, who say what I believe, which is Ben-Gurion, who was the farthest thing from religious, stood up at the UN with a Tanakh and said, we deserve this country because of this, the Bible. So like, if without the Bible, we have no right to this country, for real. And so how do you erase all Jewish characteristics from a country that was built on Jewish characteristics? Now, how does that manifest? Should there be public transportation on Shabbat? Let's discuss. Should there be funding of Torah learning? We could discuss. But the concept of we should erase any Jewish characteristics, to me, is crazy. But that is the split. There's two types of Israel.
I think those on the radical left who are anti-Jewish sort of thing, they are the minority, maybe the loud minority, maybe they are controlling some of the media. But I think the mainstream Israelis, even those who are on the center left, they have the Jewish thing in their heart.
They go to synagogue on Yom Kippur.
They go to synagogue in Yom Kippur. Maybe after that, they let their kids go on a bicycle.
Right.
They do the Seder Pesach and read the Haggadah.
Right.
And they do Rosh Hashanah. Maybe after that, they're, Rosh Hashanah day, they will fly to Italy or to Greece and not observe it on a halakha sort of thing. But they will, culturally, they are Jewish. And I think 100%. That's a large majority
100%.
here.
I agree completely. But there still is there's definitely a split. So again, forget the uber ultra left. Forget them. In general, I would say most of the secular world, not traditional, the secular world have no interest in this being a country with Jewish characteristics.
I tend to agree with you, and I think personally, it's a big mistake.
Yeah,
I think it's a big mistake.
Because what right do we have to be here? When someone says, "Oh, you occupied and you kicked these Arabs," what's our justification? If it's not our country and this isn't our homeland, then what right do we have to be here?
The only reason I think we have to be here is not the Second World War and the Nazi Holocaust. It is the 3,500 years of history since Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Moses, and King David, who was there. Everything is written in the Bible. Some of it appears on archaeological sites. We have this tie to the land. And I agree with you. We were not looking at Uganda. We were looking to Zion. And for hundreds of years, we were doing that, right?
And I don't know if you want to go there, but, the other side in the political, narrative will say the Palestinians have been here for thousands of years, right? So okay, can you just name one leader? Name me one leader besides Grand Mufti and Yasser Arafat. If they've been here for thousands of years, give me one name of a Palestinian, one, right? We occupied an Arab Palestinian state. When was it established? There's so many lies when it comes to the narrative of the pro-Palestinian, pro-Hamas crowd. The lies that they tell are ludicrous. And you don't, again, I always say this, you don't have to be a historian or a Middle East expert to realize that the things that they're saying are contradicting themselves, right? Just to give you one example, right? They're saying there's famine in Gaza, there's no food in Gaza, and the hostages are being fed well. Which one is it, right? They just contradict themselves constantly, right? Two-state solution and from the river to the sea. Which one is it, right? So it's just absurd, the lies that they tell. We have a rich history in this region. They do not. They're from, the father of the Palestinian movement, Yasser Arafat, was born in Cairo.
He's Egyptian.
It's just absurd.
I tend to agree with you that there was no Palestinian identity before the existence of Zionism. Yes, there were Arabs, Muslim Arabs, Christian Arabs, as well as many Jews living on this land at the times of the Turks and before. But there were regional Jordanians, Arabs, villagers, natives. They were not calling themselves Palestinians. This name has nothing to do with the Philistines, the Plishtim. It has nothing to do with them.
Zero. And besides, again, I don't know if you want to go into this, but why weren't they complaining before the occupation, when Jordan, owned where were they then, right? And Yasser Arafat starts the Palestinian Liberation Organization. What was he liberating? There was no occupation, right? Occupation causes terror. Then why were they massacring us in 1929 before there was even a state, right? I'm saying their narrative, if anybody cares just a little bit to poke holes in it, it falls apart. There's no truth to it.
I think, the people who are anti-Israel or probably not listening to this podcast anyway, they will put whatever story, which, works with the end result that they want to reach, that there is no reason for the Jews to have their own country. And everything is kosher or non-kosher for this to be told, right?
But I will say, the way I see it is there are three groups on the internet. There's our group, right? Pro-Israel group. Then there's the opposite group who are just insane, just Jew haters straight up. Then there's the middle group. The middle group are people that have integrity. They're not necessarily pro-Israel, but they're willing to listen and to learn. That is the vast majority.
And is that the group that you are trying to influence?
That's my target.
You're reaching a lot of non-Jews as well with your channel. And
for sure. Vast majority. I wrote a post, just one example. I wrote a post, a pretty comprehensive post about the history of Zionism, right? What is biblical Zionism? What is political Zionism? Where did it start? What does it mean, etc. It was 100% factual. No opinion, no emotion. I'm being conservative when I say hundreds, probably close to 1,000 messages from people saying to me, I didn't know any of that. You just totally opened my mind to a whole new perspective. People just don't know. And turns out that there are millions of people out there that actually have integrity. And when you tell them facts, they're interested in learning more. So if someone comes and says to me, you were occupying Gaza on October 6th, that's why they attacked on October 7th. I'm not going to tell them they're an idiot. They are an idiot, but I'm not going to tell them that. I'm going to say to them, so we were occupying Gaza on October 6th? Yeah, but what was the disengagement? Just go Google, what was the disengagement? And 99% of them have no idea what I'm talking about. They're going to Google it, and if they have any integrity, they'll realize they're completely wrong. So what I do is, my tactic is that when I write a post, I try to answer the questions that I foresee the questions that are going to come, and I try. But many people do engage one-on-one, and I try to answer them. And again, I think just general rule of thumb, I think dictating to someone, saying to someone, you're wrong, this and this and this, simply doesn't work. Right. Questions work. Questions, right? You come and you say X, I say, okay, tell me about Y. And if you don't know the answer, you're going to go study, you're going to go learn, you're going to research, and you're going to realize you're wrong. But me telling you you're wrong is a lot less effective. So questions are, for me, have always been very effective.